Well, we'll turn our attention now to politics. Well, do we call it politics as it has to do with law? Because we're talking about the developments that played itself out in Ekiti State, where well, we'll tell you about it in a moment. We're joined now by Mr. Tunji Abayomi, who is a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning, sir.
Thank you.
Well, this incident, when it broke, there were so many couldn't describe it. There were arguments, counter-arguments, people saying, no, he was there, he wasn't. But at the end of the day, there's a curfew imposed by the governor now. But the whole scenario, were you shocked when you heard what happened about the Election Petition Tribunal in Ekiti?
Well, yes, I was, because we are creating I would say a government of well, essential and anarchical situation. That's really, and that's probably the first time we'll go into that kind of situation in the country, where the judiciary will appear to be threatened. And I think it's lack of knowledge, really, because a court would deal with any case that is brought to it, even if it is stupid.
Including the one that accuses the judge of being an interested party in the matter.
There is no basis for that, with due respect. My understanding is that the judge decided that it had jurisdiction. Now, if a court has the power to decide whether it has jurisdiction or it doesn't, by law. And when you are accusing a judge of interest, you've got to be very sure of it. It is true in our country that the nation is going through a terrible period of disorder in terms of corruption. But it is also true there are lots of judges who do their job fairly and to the best of their ability. The problem is that there is a tendency to presume, purely based on general thinking, that if a judge takes a decision, a position against you, especially in matters of political nature, it must be that the judge is biased. Now, this issue of involving Fayose, the problem is that this nation didn't handle it very well. Interestingly enough, your colleagues, when he was contesting, aspiring, your colleagues came to ask me whether I thought he was qualified to run for office. And I said, no, in my view, from a constitutional standpoint, he wasn't. Because if we look at the Constitution, Section 188, it's talking of guilt of gross misconduct. Impeachment is a quasi-criminal process all over the world. And if we look at it again, Section 182 of the Constitution, it provides that if you have been convicted either for dishonesty or breach of code of conduct, 10 years before you run for office, you are disqualified from running for office. He was actually convicted by a legislative tribunal. And if we also follow the history of impeachment, for example, in America, where we took our constitution, once you are impeached, you are disqualified from holding public office.
Is it clearly stated in our laws?
No, it's not clearly stated, but by implication, like I said, in the law, you are disqualified under Section 82, under Section 182, if you have been convicted for dishonesty by a court or a tribunal 10 years before you run for office, you are disqualified from running for office. Now, in the case of Fayose, he was convicted. That's number one. The second issue is the process of trying him was going on by EFCC. His intervention amounts to an impediment to do administration of justice, because once he becomes governor, he has immunity from prosecution. Now, if on the other hand he was convicted, he would not have been qualified to run for office. But that's that. But nobody took it up. in my view, when it ought to have been taken up at that initial stage. You waited, he was now presented by INEC as electable. Now, the people now exercise their organic sovereign right to constitute leadership over themselves by election. The electors elected them. You are now coming at a late stage. To my mind, it is inappropriate to come at this stage. That's my view. You know, because you should have taken what you have. You should have done what you ought to do at the right time. Things are properly done when they are done at the right time, at the time they ought to have been done. But they failed to do that. So you waited. It's like you're putting the horse before, you are putting the cart before the horse. So I think that is really the complication that we have.
Was the case instituted after he won the elections? It wasn't instituted after he won the elections. It was instituted before.
Yeah, but it was before. It was after he was already declared to be electable. Immediately he was aspiring. That's the time they ought to have instituted an action. The whole process had almost been completed, to the best of my knowledge. Not after he was elected, but the whole process of presenting him as a candidate for PDP had been concluded before you went to court. Immediately he was aspiring. You should have made it clear. In other words, you actually have even have initiated an action. I'm talking of the people of Ekiti State against PDP and perhaps against INEC to say, look, this man cannot even aspire. Because if he can aspire, he can become a candidate. If he becomes a candidate, you present him as elected, and he can be elected. All of this you waited. You are basically sleeping on your right. And like I said at that time to your colleagues, that's the problem of the people of Ekiti State. It's not the problem of anybody. But people didn't challenge him. You know, I believe constitutionally he was disqualified from running for office. He ought not to have run for office.
But since he now ran,
yes,
and then now is governor-elect, does he have, can he be prosecuted based on that allegation at the time?
Well, he can still be. He's not yet a governor. He has no immunity. As of today, until he takes the oath of office, he can be prosecuted. And he's still subject. For example, after he was elected, he still appeared in court in the EFCC case. He's not yet. He does not have immunity guaranteed or granted by the Constitution until he takes the oath of office. But once he takes the oath of office, he's no longer, you cannot prosecute him, you cannot issue a summons against him. He's holistically immune from criminal judicial process. You know, so that's just the situation.
When you talk of timing, what exactly are the consequences of not doing things when we ought to have done them? As you rightly, as you're pointing out now, yes, you're saying that, you know, this case came too late.
Yes.
What is the consequence in law?
The consequence, well, in law, strictly, it doesn't have what we might call profound legal consequence. But again, the law cannot be independent, cannot pretend as if it does not know the situation of the country. After all, the whole essence is that you pass law for peace, order, and good government. That's the whole essence why law is passed. But now, the consequence is what we now find. Now, you can appreciate the situation. The people have exercised their right. They only, largely, the most fundamental, you might even say the most important right that the people have is to constitute government over themselves. And that's the only thing they really have in a nation state. Now, Mr. Fayose was presented as electable, and they have elected him as their governor. After they have elected him as their governor, now you are now saying that he cannot, in essence, you are saying he cannot be their governor. The people will revolt. You have essentially sowed a seed of revolt in the polity. And that is exactly what is going on. And when you have a revolt, you have, essentially, you upset the legal order, the existing order. That's the whole essence, what a revolt is. And that is exactly what is happening. They're taking over, harassing the court, harassing legal order. That's the problem.